How well do your company's leaders listen and then act on what they hear? How loyal are your coworkers? How does their happiness drive customer satisfaction? My guest on this episode of the Work Positive podcast understands the amazing relationship between how she demonstrates how much she values her employees and how well they satisfy customers. She grows her people and they grow the profits. How does she do that? She invests in her employees' happiness and well-being, and that cultivates a positive work culture of loyalty, creativity, and excellence at FASTSIGNS Daytona. Ready to discover how you can do the same? Then let's listen up, lean in, and learn. Work Positive Nation.
Welcome to the Work Positive podcast with your host, executive coach, and culture architect, Dr. Joey Fawcett. Discover strategies and tactics that work positive as Dr. Joey talks with industry leaders who create a positive work culture that attracts top talent and reduces team turnover. Discover how you can create a work positive culture that increases productivity and profits. Here's your host, Dr. Joey.
Work Positive Nation, help me welcome Carmen Ruiz. Carmen, welcome to Work Positive Podcast. I am so excited to have you on.
I'm excited to be here, Dr. Fawcett. Thank you for having me.
Oh, she said Dr. Fawcett. You can say Dr. Joey or you can say Joey, but you can't say Dr. Fawcett because then I start looking around for a much older man.
Okay, Dr. Joey, you got it.
All right. Thanks, Carmen. And may I call you Carmen?
You can.
Carmen, as I talked about in the introduction, you had this amazing hyper focus on creating a positive work culture. Where did that come from within you, this hyper focus?
I say it's from, like, my parents were both like super positive in our upbringing. And my mom would always say, lead with kindness. And so going into the business world, that was my goal as a business owner and with my employees and my community was to always lead with kindness. And so I would say that's where my hyper focus comes, is doing it with kindness.
Thanks, Mom. And that's so often the story because the first culture we ever experience is our family culture. And there's some things we love about our family culture. There's some other things we maybe don't like about our family culture. So as we begin adulting, there's this whole sifting process. So I'm always curious, particularly with business owners like yourself, where'd you get this focus on a positive work culture? So tell us all about this positive work culture. Where are you located? What do you do? What's the company name? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I own a visual communications company. It's a franchise called FASTSIGNS, and we're located in Daytona Beach, one of 700 plus centers in the United States.
Wow.
And we are 6 years old. So we're babies, I would say, in our industry, in the FASTSIGNS network.
Okay.
I've been in the FASTSIGNS network for about 17 years. I worked for another employer and then managed his center and then had the opportunity to open Daytona Beach with him as a partner. And we do visual communications, signage, marketing, anything that can help you make a statement as your company and organization. That's what we do.
Oh, Carmen, I'm so sorry you have to live in Daytona Beach, Florida. It must be really tough to live there, right?
It was so hard doing business in paradise. I don't know what to say. I get to live and play and work hard where people come to vacation.
But your friends, if your experience is anything like mine, when I lived near the coast of North Carolina, my friends thought, oh, he doesn't work. He just spends all this time at the beach.
Yeah. I do spend a lot of time there, and it's good. It's a good thing. It's balance. We all need balance.
If you want to call it balance, that's great. I need as much balance as I can, right? So the more often I have sand in my shoes, the better off I'm going to be balanced. There you go. That'll work. So tell us about the FASTSIGNS company. You said you worked in there 17 years. You've owned this particular franchise for 6 years. What is it that you love about the FASTSIGNS franchise culture?
It's the culture itself, right? And so being an employee for so many years, I worked for a franchisee that really believed in the system and the network, right? And so I had the opportunity to go to conventions and go to FASTSIGNS International stuff and events that really helped grow my leadership, but also really helped me I would say, fall in love with the industry and with the brand. And so I was approached to open this location. I was like, absolutely. Do I want to become a business owner in an industry, but also a brand that I love? Super positive network, very good connections, franchisee to franchisee throughout the country and throughout the world. And so
Wow.
It's very special. It's a special network. I think that also breeds to that positive culture inside individual centers. And that's my FASTSIGNS experience.
Oh, man, that's incredible. I love what you're talking about there with the owner-to-owner learning or peer-to-peer learning that takes place, because you can exchange best practices with one another. Hey, here's what's working for me. What's working for you? Here's a problem I have. How are you dealing with it?
Yeah, and they do that at a corporate level too. So they have something called board groups where they pair 5 or 6 board members that may have unique in size and equipment. And we get to meet a couple times a year and focus on business planning, on challenges, and hear other people's successes. But then also our FASTSIGNS convention where you get that one-on-one with people all over the country. And so that's probably the best part, right?
Yeah. It's really most effective because you're getting your questions answered and what's important to you, the challenges that you're facing. So I'm sorry, my mind, when you said the FASTSIGNS convention, I'm just thinking, is speed dating a part of that? But I don't need to ask that question, do I? Or maybe speed Q&A, right? Quick, what's your question? FASTSIGNS. So everybody wants everything fast now. So I'm thinking we want it yesterday when we first had the thought. So I'm thinking that's one of the attraction factors for a company named FASTSIGNS in Daytona, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we sell 1 million products and some things are quicker than others, but I think it's just about communication and really good customer service more than can you turn it around in 24 hours. Definitely products that require 24-hour or 48-hour turnaround, and then stuff that requires 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks turnaround. And so we have a sense of urgency with everything. From the moment we pick up the phone to the moment we deliver the product, regardless of what the timeline might be.
And that urgency comes across as, again, a hyper focus, but this time on customer satisfaction, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have deadlines we don't even know about.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I always try to give vendors plenty of time to do whatever it is I'm going to do because I want to treat them like I want to be treated. But I got to tell you, Carmen, when our first I had about 24, maybe 36 hours to produce a big banner to hang between posts on my daughter's front porch to welcome that baby home. Oh, man, they got it done and it looked great. But it's times like those where we don't know what the deadline is because you don't know when that baby's coming home, right? So many business owners that I talk with today or coach or consult with, Carmen, are finding great challenges in securing workforce. I refer to it as workforce development. How are you, creating that next generation or that next set of team members and things like that? How do you best attract team members to FASTSIGNS Daytona?
I'll tell you, we've done everything, right? We've hired recruiters, we've put ads out on social, on platforms like Indeed and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
But the more and more involved that we get in our community and the more that we involve our staff in community, the more we attract people that come and say, I'm looking for another opportunity. Do you have something available? Or they see an ad, and they're like, I really want to work for you in the future. And so we've already got someone in mind for when that position becomes available, which is a unique situation, but I would contribute that to the amount of community involvement that we have. And so we've been very fortunate that our culture internally has translated through our employees out into our community. And that has been the number one way for us to get great leads for employees moving forward in the last 2 years.
Right. You just can't beat that personal referral at a community block party or family gathering or something when they start bragging about Carmen and FASTSIGNS and the great culture they have. And man, you ought to come work here. Monday's as exciting as Friday for me. You guys ought to come to work here. You can't beat that, can you?
And it is the best compliment. When I see a client or when I see a community partner and they say, I ran into one of your employees and I have to tell you, they said this and this. Number one, there's accountability there, which means you have to maintain that kind of leadership as an owner, because you know that they're talking. And the reality is they're talking regardless of it being positive or negative.
They are talking. Well,
you always want to maintain that inside your business so that they can say the positive when they're out there.
The psychologists would tell you that they are more likely to talk when it's negative than they are positive. So it takes extra effort to move the needle towards getting them to talk spontaneously about a positive work culture, right? So you're finding yourself out in the community, and you said community involvement about 3 times there. Tell me, Carmen, how are you involved in the community that creates that positive vibe that attracts top talent?
Yeah, me as the owner, I'm involved in our chambers, but I realized about 3 years ago that it's not just about my personal development, that it's also about staff. Sweet. And so we allow them and we encourage them to either be involved with a civic organization, a nonprofit organization, or an industry-specific organization or association. And what we've learned is that everybody is passionate about something. And so almost everybody on staff, with the exception of one person, is involved in some sort of an association or a chamber or civic organization where they represent FASTSIGNS, and at the same time, they are growing personally as a business professional.
So, Carmen, if I'm passionate about feeding the hungry, then I can go work at a food pantry or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So do your employees get time away from work to do that, or how does that work for you as a business owner?
Yeah, I find that that's less of a thing. There may be, I can give you an example. We have one employee that she's involved with a nonprofit. And in the 2 years that she's been involved with that nonprofit, she's only asked me for 2 days to go and do a specific event during the week. She's already doing her 40 plus hours, giving me her best. That's not a problem for her to go and do that and be a part of that during that time. We have some others that sit on civic boards. And so I give them the hour to do their work plus to be on that board, to serve on that board. And then any time that they need additional for lunch or anything like that. So we're just very flexible. We try to accommodate it.
Really, what they're doing is business development, right?
They really are.
That's not the pure intention, but it's a nice benefit, right?
Absolutely. And it gives them purpose. I think that at this COVID past, people are looking for things that are impactful, that give them a purpose. I think that 8 to 9 mentality is there for everyone. I think people want to make an impact. And a lot of times people leave your business because they're not fulfilled without that. It may not be a job that needs to make them fulfilled. Your job can be something that you love that gives you the opportunity to do something that you're passionate about. So we try and mirror those together.
Oh, that's beautiful. As well. Yeah, so that's one way that you reduce team turnover. What are some other ways you keep people working at FASTSIGNS Daytona, Carmen?
Listen, we are a goal-oriented team, and so I am not afraid to say, hey, these are our goals. Sweet. And so if we hit those goals, there's a lot of incentives in place. I can give you an example. Our goal was to hit $1 million in sales. And as soon as we hit $1 million in sales, we took the entire team to our annual convention. And we also booked a cruise for our team to go as a team to celebrate that $1 million, right? So every $1 million threshold, the team knows that we're going to go on some sort of a thing, whether it's a cruise or a vacation, we're going to do that together. Nice. And so they want to be a part of that. They're like, okay, we hit the $1 million. What do we have to do to hit $2 million? And how long can we get there? Can we get there in 4 years? So they're not thinking about next year. They're thinking about 4 years from now.
Wow. Wow. It sounds like you've done a great job of creating a culture that develops what I like to call an owner mentality.
That's a tough one. I literally was talking to somebody recently where they said, I just wish that my employees had that owner mentality. And I said, but in order for them to have that, you also have to give them something for that, because it's not really fair to expect them to have that that owner mentality, but then also not sharing the benefits. And so I don't know that we've necessarily done that with that intention, but I can say that the staff that we have is very motivated. They feel empowered to make decisions, and we step back and we elevate them as much as we can, even in their decision making.
Yeah, if you're sharing the goals, and I'm assuming there's some collaborative effort around setting those goals too. So they have buy-in right from the start, and then you incentivize it, and we get certain rewards, if you will, if we hit that goal. And that's an owner mentality. But it's rather naive at best and stupid at worst just to expect your employees to come to work with an owner mentality and not encourage them to have that, right?
Or also to expect them to have that, but then also not expect them to share challenges or place where we can improve. And so we, along with those things, we do a SWOT analysis every year. Carmen doesn't do that. We do that as a team because they can see challenges in the business that we can improve. They see sometimes challenges in me as an owner that they put in front of me where I've had to be like, I need to improve in this area. And so it's mutual. It's mutual.
It's collaborative. Good for you for being secure enough in who you are to open it up and say, hey guys, give me some feedback right here. What can I do better? Yeah.
Try.
Yeah, well, not every owner does that. Carmen Ruiz is my guest on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. She is the owner of FASTSIGNS Daytona. So there's a website we can go to and learn more about FASTSIGNS Daytona. What is it, Carmen?
It's www.faststigns.com/616, and that'll take you to our center webpage about our products, our business, and some of the things we do in our community as well.
Wonderful. So if you're out looking at other people's fast signs as you walk the dog, or you're on the Peloton right now, it's in the show notes, faststigns.com/616. What are some of the challenges that you're facing right now as a business owner, Carmen?
I think the sentiment right now is always hiring. And so as we've grown exponentially, we've also had to hire quickly. And so oftentimes hiring quickly can bring challenges because maybe you're not hiring the right team member for the culture that you've set. And I always find myself, because I do lead with kindness, that it is hard to get rid of a bad team member. And so I will say that we've made some mistakes there sometimes, right? And trying to protect the culture can be challenging when you need people in certain roles. And sometimes you hire a great employee and you put them in the wrong role.
Yeah.
And you've done them a disservice in trying to identify that quick enough so that they don't get disengaged and so that we can put them in the right role where they can thrive. Can be really challenging because you've got to give it time, right?
Yeah.
And so you've got to hopefully be able to retain them or engage them well enough where they're willing to wait it out for that role to become available.
So how do you, by the way, sometimes the kindest thing we can do for someone is to help them find another job. I'm giving them the opportunity to head on down the street. I've literally seen people change industries in their career and to be so much more fulfilled. So it was a kind act that we gave them that opportunity. But how do you determine, what are you doing? What are your metrics to discern, hey, this employee is not a good culture fit, or hey, this employee is a good culture fit, but they're just in the wrong seat on the bus?
Yeah. My philosophy is if you live your culture, so whatever your core values are as a team, right? If you lead that, for us, it's sense of urgency, spirit of excellence, teamwork. If that's who you are as a business and you live that every single day, if you plug somebody in that's not a good team member, that doesn't have a spirit of excellence and it doesn't have a sense of urgency, you're going to know that right away.
Okay.
And so now it's taken time to get there where we've been able to identify that a little bit quicker. And now we're at the point where we have strong key members. When you have very strong key players in your business, you don't have to hold on to somebody to do the work. And building that great team so that you can plug in people slowly is the key. Now, when we identify it, we as a team collaboratively make a decision. If the entire team says, listen, we really like this person and we think that they're a good worker, and all together we're going to overcome this challenge, that's not a Carmen decision, that is a team decision. And we all work towards getting that person to the place where they need to be as far as coaching. Because a lot of times it's just personality, right? Not everybody is motivated the same way. Not everybody is coached the same way. And so there may be somebody on the team that's not Carmen that can help direct that person and grow and develop that person better. And so that's how we do that. But I've had a situation where I've hired somebody that I'm very fond of and quickly realized that they were not a good fit for our culture and for the position that we had available. And there really wasn't another position that was fit for that person. And so kindly walking away and saying, hey, you're great. I'll give you a letter of recommendation. Or what are you passionate about? If I know of someone, I'll let you know. I've done that before.
Yeah, that's a real act of kindness for them. I love you. This isn't the best fit for you. I love the fact that it's a collaborative, a team decision about the fit, and the team makes the decision, because that keeps you from being the bad guy, if I could just say it like that. And everybody shares in that. So everybody shares in attracting top talent as well.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I've hired somebody with industry experience and wasn't really sure if they were the right fit for our culture. And the team said, yes, 100%. We'll do what it takes to get them on board. And it's been great. It's been a wonderful experience, but it's taken the whole team to make that work. And so I'll talk about it. I'm very honest. If I'm like, listen, I think you're talented, but I want to make sure that you're the right fit for the culture. When somebody comes on board here at Fast Signs in Daytona Beach, they understand our culture right away because we talk about it every single day. And so they know what the accountability is. It's not about the numbers. Like, we'll hit the $1 million. We'll hit our next sales goal. That's going to happen because we provide great service, but we have to do it together. And so it's got to be an environment where everybody wants to come to work. Everybody wants to thrive and grow. And so for the most part, they understand. They're not going to create that kind of chaos or anything.
Man, that's amazing. So how do you talk about the culture every day? What are some ways that you do that?
So we highlight members. If somebody, I'll give an example. I've got a designer who didn't have a lot of industry experience, came in, has just knocked it out of the park. And last month we had a project that was a pretty large endeavor, and we had a new piece of equipment. And so he was like, I'm going to learn this thing very quick, and I'm going to make this job happen. He had about a 5-day window to make it happen, and he did. And so the next day, I'll get with the team and I'll say, hey, look, this is a great example of the spirit of excellence, right? This is not just getting out of your way. This is like making sure that you learn it, that you print it, that you produce it. That's a great example of the spirit of excellence and what we all want to do when we're here.
So shout out to Bill who did that, right?
Yeah, Aaron's wonderful.
I'm loving it. That is great. And Bill gets a certain pride in having owned that challenge and knocking the ball out of the park. That's amazing. Carmen Ruiz is my guest on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. She owns Fast Signs in Daytona Beach, aka Paradise. She keeps referring to it as, which makes me just want to get on a plane, train, or in my vehicle and head down there today, since I walked my 2 miles and it was about 28 degrees this morning. When we go to FASTSIGNS.com/616, Carmen, I obviously don't live in Daytona Beach. Can I order a sign from you guys regardless of where I live?
Yeah, absolutely. You can definitely order. We'll ship it out. And if it's a project that's too big to ship out, we'll connect you with one of our franchisees in your area. Like I said, we have connections with our other franchisees. And so if it's appropriate job to send, we'll send it to them as well.
Oh, wonderful. So this is not geographically restricted then. Anybody in Work Positive Nation can go to FASTSIGNS.com/616.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's amazing. Work Positive Nation always wants to know from my guest, Carmen, what's one thing? So what's your one thing, Carmen Ruiz, that Work Positive Nation can do starting today to create a positive work culture?
I said lead with kindness, but really the best way to translate that is to lead with dignity. And so hire, coach, reprimand, and if you have to let somebody go, do it with dignity. And I promise you it will pay off.
What does dignity look like to you, Carmen?
It's the broad word, but I think it really comes down to just treating people the way that you want to be treated, right? As owners, you have to remember that just because we became a business owner doesn't mean that we're a great manager. And so we should constantly be working on our management skills and how we treat others and how we lead people. I hear people say, I want to leave my part of the world a little bit better than I found it. And I believe that about people. And so when people come through your business, you want them to leave better than when they came in. And so I think if you do that with dignity, whatever dignity looks like for you, it should always end in a positive goodbye or a positive growth of that person personally.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, because those people go home. And so if they're a little better when they leave than when they came in the door that day, their family's better, their community's better, the neighborhood's better, Daytona Beach is better, Florida's better. It just spreads, doesn't it? I absolutely love that. Carmen Ruiz is my guest on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. Please, please, please do yourself a favor and go to FASTSIGNS.com/616. There you can discover how you can get in touch with Carmen, because not only can you order signs there, but you can get in touch with her, because I know there's somebody in Work Positive Nation that's saying, I want to talk to Carmen and ask her some questions Dr. Joey didn't ask. So, Carmen, thank you. You've been so generous with your time. I love, love, love the company that you created there with the culture. I love hearing a franchisee brag on their franchisor. It's an amazing thing that you're experiencing there in Daytona Beach. But then what else would you expect from paradise? Because
That's right.
paradise is not only the palm trees in Daytona, but it's when you get to work at FASTSIGNS Daytona Beach. Carmen Ruiz, thank you so much for your gift today to us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joey. I appreciate it. And thank you for a Work Positive network to connect and get to hear from other people. Look forward to following you more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. Please share this podcast with your friends who are HR and small business leaders so they can do one thing today to create a positive work culture that increases productivity and profits. I'd like to give you a free Work Positive course just for listening. It's called Something to Talk About, and it's transformed the work conversations of so many people all over the world. Get your free copy when you go to workpositive.today/something to talk about, and you can start transforming your conversations today. Remember, it pays to work positive.